Okay, so now we're going to look at LCD, which is the lowest common denominator. So one of the things that we need to be able to do when we're looking at a group of fractions is we need to be able to have them with a common denominator, so that means the denominator is the same, so that we can do a fair comparison, okay? So to find common denominators, we're looking for the number that both of these will go into, okay? Now, there is an easy way to find a common denominator, and that's simply to multiply the denominators, and that will always work. However, it doesn't always give you the lowest. So we'll do a simple one to start with, and then we'll have a look at one where the lowest will work a little bit easier. So for this one here, we would just multiply by 5 and multiply by 5, because that's the denominator here, and then multiply by 4 and multiply by 4, okay? And that gives us 3 times 5 is 15 over 20, compared to 2 times 4 is 8 over 20. And then we can do that comparison. Now, often a question like this will have like a box in the middle, and they'll ask you to put one of these 3 symbols in the box, and you can see here that 15/20 is greater than 8/20, so you can pop the greater than sign in there. Now, let's have a look at some examples where we don't just multiply the denominators by each other. So for example, 2/5 and 3/10, okay? So here, if we just multiply the denominators, we end up with a common denominator of 50, okay? But we don't need to, because we know that 5 goes into 10, and we know that 10 goes into 10. So in actual fact, we can just multiply that one by 2, okay? And that will give us 4 over 10. And this one we don't have to change at all. We can just leave that as 3 over 10. And now we can do our comparison, okay? And so whenever you're looking at these types of questions, it's most important that you think, what's the connection with these numbers, okay? For example, if we look at something like 5/6 over 7/8, this for example, okay? A lot of kids will just go, oh, I'm just going to multiply them, and they'll go times 8 and times 8 and times 6 and times 6, okay? But the thing is, 6 and 8 both go into 24, okay? So it's a much smaller number to deal with. So here, instead it'd be times by 4, okay, and times by 3, okay? And the thing with these questions is that finding the lowest common denominator means you've got numbers that are smaller, which are typically more familiar to you, and they're easy, and that makes them easier to work with. And also with these, it means that if you are solving it for, let's say this is an addition question, okay, then that becomes 41 over 24, and you've got a smaller number to deal with, okay? Instead of if you had been dealing with it over 48, it's a bigger number, okay? So that's the LCD.